Have you ever wondered why some gas stations in the middle of the desert keep their lights on 24/7? That's not for you. The story I'm about to tell didn't make the news. It was written off as an accident. It's the story of one night, 7 hours, that turned two people's lives into fine, meaningless dust. And it all began when a young man named Zach agreed to work the graveyard shift at the Last Light gas station on Highway 87, 20 miles from the nearest source of life. Zach Bennett, a student, needed money. The ad was enticing. Night shift, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. High pay, minimal socializing. The man I was talking to was the owner, a man in his 60s named Ernie. He was thin, his arms covered in bluish tattoos of old sailor knots, and his gaze looked not at you, but through you. He showed Zach around the gas station. Everything was spotless, even the restroom. Cleanliness is the first rule, Ernie croaked. Second rule, 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. is inventory break. Doors are locked from the inside. Don't let anyone in. Nobody. Third rule, if a red 1978 Ford pickup truck pulls up, you don't hear me, you don't see it, you're doing paperwork. It'll leave on its own. Zach found this odd, but the money outweighed any doubts. The first 2 weeks were boring. Late night customers, truckers filling up and leaving, couple of local drunks. The red pickup never showed up. The only odd thing was Ernie's behavior. He always called at exactly 12:55 a.m., 5 minutes before the break, and asked in the same tone, "Is everything locked?" And before dawn at 5:30, he called again, "Are you still there?" Zach started joking about it with his friend Melanie. "You old paranoid woman," he'd say. Everything changed that evening when Melanie, after a fight with her parents, decided to join him. She arrived in her old Honda Civic. "You're so bored all alone," she said. Zach, mindful of Ernie's strict rules regarding visitors, let her in. She brought pizza, and the atmosphere became almost cheerful until 1:05. Exactly at 1:05, the light at the gas station exit went out. Not the gas station itself, the neon signs were still on, but the pole illuminating the turn. It became dark. Very dark. "Must have a burned-out bulb," Zach said hesitantly. At that moment, the phone rang. Ernie. His voice wasn't hoarse, but rather tense and thin. "Who's there?" "I see another car." Zach winced. "It's a friend. She just walked in." A pause, then a soft but distinct sound. Ernie slammed his fist on the table. "Idiot. You're an idiot. Listen to me. Throw her out right now. Make her get in the car and leave. And don't you dare leave with her. Lock the door and raise the shades on the windows." The line went dead. Melanie, frightened, agreed to leave. She got out, got into the car, started it, and then the headlights of her Honda picked out a figure in the darkness. He was standing in the empty parking lot, about 20 meters from the building. A tall, broad-shouldered man in dark work clothes. He simply stood there and stared at the glass office door. Not at Melanie driving away. At the door. Melanie's car pulled out onto the highway and disappeared into the night. The man didn't move. 5 minutes passed. 10. He stood there like a statue. Then he slowly turned and walked into the darkness, beyond the light of the signs. Zach, relieved, followed orders. He locked the door and raised the metal shutters on all the windows. He found himself in a bulletproof glass box, alone. And then it dawned on him, Ernie had seen the second car, but there were no cameras outside. So Ernie was watching from somewhere outside, or was right there, nearby. The next 2 hours were the longest of Zach's life. He tried calling Melanie. The phone didn't answer. Then it went to voicemail. He called Ernie, but he didn't pick up. At 3 a.m., he heard a sound, not from outside, from inside, from under the floor. A dull, metallic scraping sound, like something heavy and rusty being shifted in the basement. But according to the site plans, there was no basement, just a foundation slab. Then it all started outside. First, a hail of small stones flew across the roof. Zach thought it was the wind, but there was no wind. Then there was a knock on one of the tall, unobstructed window panels on the facade, soft, like someone throwing an acorn. Then another, and another. The knocks grew more frequent, rhythmic. Knock, knock, knock. Pause. Knock, knock, knock. It was code. Morse code? No, too simple. It was just a knock. An invitation? Or a test? At 3:15 a.m., his cell phone vibrated. A message from Melanie. The text was incoherent, full of errors. Zach, something's wrong. I'm stopped on the side of the road near you. I think someone's following me. Or the traffic lights are out. I'm afraid to get out of the car. Zach wrote, start your car and come. There was no answer. He called the police. The dispatcher said sleepily, a patrol will be in the area in an hour. If your friend is in immediate danger, call 911 from her phone. It was no use. At 3:40 a.m., the knocking stopped. A deathly silence reigned, and then Zach heard a new sound, the screeching of brakes. Right at the entrance, he crept to the gap in the blinds. The same red 1978 Ford pickup was parked in the lot, rusty, with no working headlights. The same man got out. He approached the gas pump, not the door. He began to fill up. Everything was normal, except the time, except his movements slow, almost ceremonial, and except his face. In the dim light of the sign, Zach made out his features, a square jaw, close-cropped hair, an impassive expression. The man filled up, walked to the door, and dropped money into the night tray, a narrow metal box for paying without opening it. His fingers were coated with something sticky and dark. He stood for a second, looking at the metal-paned window where Zach was. He'd hidden and driven away. The truck didn't start. It simply rolled in neutral into the darkness, past the gas station toward where the field began. And then Zach realized, a tray. Money. He walked over to the tray and opened the inner lid. Inside were 2 crumpled $20 bills and something else. A scrap of paper, probably torn from a cement bag. Written on it in pencil, in large block letters, was the words, she'll be back. She forgot her doll. Zach shuddered. What doll? Melanie hadn't brought any doll with her. He frantically scanned the tiny space. On the shelf, under the counter, where the brochures usually sat, he saw it. An old rag doll in a polka dot dress. One button was missing. It hadn't been there at the start of his shift. Someone had slipped it in while he wasn't looking. Or it had always been there and he hadn't noticed. He tried calling Melanie again. This time the phone answered, but it wasn't her. A calm, dispassionate male voice. She can't come, she's asleep. And you broke the rules? Ernie said, no one. After 1 a.m. The rules of the game have changed. Zach screamed into the phone. Who are you? What did you do to her? The voice replied, We're nothing. We're just watchmen. Bridge watchmen. And you're on the other side. You need to go back. But the bridge is occupied now. The line went dead. Panicked, Zach began searching the office for anything, any weapon, any clue. In a file drawer, he found an old, tattered notebook, a duty log from previous years. Leafing through it, he came across entries in Ernie's handwriting. Short, terse notes. The 10th of March, 2010. Night shift. Jimmy. Violated Rule 2. Went out for a smoke at 2:15, didn't return. Found keys by the fence. The 15th of December, 2012. Night shift. Lucy at 3:21. Brought in a friend. Both died before morning. Incident resolved. Resolved. A cold, formal word. And the very last entry, dated last month. New guy Zach. Hope he's smarter. Red pickup showed up twice. Quiet. Waiting. Waiting. Who's waiting? And for what? At 4:55, 5 minutes before the official end of the break, the landline rang. Ernie. He sounded tired and eerily calm. Zach, man. You're in big trouble. But there's a way out. Just one. You must do as I say. Whether you see your girlfriend alive depends on this. Ernie's instructions were insane. At precisely 5 a.m., Zach was to turn off all the lights in the station, including the emergency lights and even the office lights. Then exit through the back door, which he didn't recognize. It led to a tiny outbuilding surrounded by a high fence. They would be waiting for him there. Who? Zach asked. The ones holding your girlfriend. They want to trade, you for her. You walk out, they let her go, she gets in her car and drives away. Those are their rules. They like rules. Zach realized it was a trap. But what choice did he have? The police were doing nothing. He was trapped. He agreed. At precisely 5 a.m., he pulled the light switch. Complete darkness enveloped the station. There was no moon. He felt for the back door. It was there, unlocked. He stepped out into the small, concrete courtyard, and then he saw them. There were 3 of them. A man in work clothes, the pickup driver, another younger one in a hoodie, and Ernie. Ernie stood off to the side, smoking, his face illuminated by the light of his cigarette. He didn't look at Zach. "Where's Melanie?" Zach breathed. The man nodded toward the fence. The gate was open. 50 meters away, at the edge of the field, Melanie's Honda Civic was parked. The interior light was on. She was behind the wheel. "Go to her," the man said. "If she starts and drives away, it's over. You're staying with us. Forever. New guardian." Zach walked. Every footstep echoed loudly in the silence. He approached the car. Melanie leaned against the window, as if asleep. He knocked. She didn't move. He pulled the handle, the door was open. "Mel, it's me." He touched her shoulder. Her body was warm, but too flexible. He looked into her face. Her eyes were open and glassy. A distinct red mark was visible on her neck, illuminated by the ceiling light. She had been killed, sitting here, probably 2 hours ago. Ernie's voice came from the darkness behind him, very close now. "She broke a rule. She left, but then she came back. She came back for you, idiot." She pulled up to the back fence at 2 a.m. They don't like that. Unpredictability. Zach turned. Ernie and 2 others stood in a semicircle, blocking the way back to the station. A man in work clothes held a long crowbar. "And now," Ernie said, exhaling smoke, "you'll become part of the history of this place. Like Jimmy, like Lucy, like so many others before you. We're all watchmen here. Watchmen of the bridge between here and there. And to keep there from coming here, it needs to be fed sometimes. You understand? It's not personal. It's just the ecosystem." They moved toward him. Zach jumped aside into the darkness of the field. He ran blindly, stumbling over the uneven road. Behind him, he heard slow, confident footsteps, not a furious pursuit, as if they knew he had nowhere to run. For miles around, there was only fields, forest, and an empty highway. The police, finally arriving at 7:30 a.m., after a call from Zach's colleague who had been unable to reach him, found the last beam station open and empty. Neither Zach nor Ernie were there. The cameras inside the office, which, as it turned out, were recording not to the cloud, but to a hard drive in the utility room, had been turned off at 4:59 a.m. The last entry was of Zach at the switch. The duty log lay open to a blank page on his desk. Someone had carefully written a new entry in blue ink. 15.10.2023, night shift, Zach, violated rules 2 and 3, substituted, did not return. Incident resolved. Candidate to replace Ernie, consider. Melanie's car was found 3 days later in the woods, 30 miles from the station. The driver's seat was empty. The same polka dot ragdoll lay in the passenger seat. Its face was thoroughly smeared with candle wax, and a coin cell battery was inserted in place of its other eye. Ernie was put on the wanted list, but was never found. The last beam station was bought by the power company, torn down, and a new, brighter one was built. The incident was ruled a domestic crime. But those driving this stretch of highway, 87 inches, the dead of night, sometimes notice something strange. If you're running low on gas and desperate, a sign might appear on the side of the road leading to an old dirt road. And at the end of that road, among the trees, you'll see an old, dilapidated toll booth with a single glowing neon tube and the silhouette of a person inside. If you drive closer, you'll be able to make out a young face, frightened. It might even try to shoo you away with desperate gestures. But if you get out of the car, you'll hear the screeching brakes of an old pickup truck behind you. And in the booth, a man will slowly lower the blinds, turn away, and pretend to fill out some paperwork, because he's the new security guard. And he'd already learned the cardinal rule. Don't let anyone in after 1 in the morning, and don't let anyone out, ever. It's just an ecosystem. And you're just a night visitor who's wandered onto the wrong side of the bridge.